Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. So we are watching as a jury is considering the case against nurse Radonda Vaught. She's accused in the state of Tennessee of reckless homicide. She gave the wrong medication to a patient, and that patient subsequently died. Now, she spoke, the defendant, Radonda Vaught, spoke to a reporter at our affiliate there in Nashville. Our affiliate station is WTVF. The reporter's name is Chris Davis. He talked to her earlier today. Let's take a look at what she shared.
I'll say after this week has been done, yesterday afternoon, whenever I left, it was a big weight lifted off my shoulders. And when I say weight, I mean the weight of this legal process, not the weight of Ms. Murphy's life being lost. I want to make that really clear because that's something that will always be with me. Anytime you take care of a patient and you have some sort of a thing that bonds you, you don't, good or bad, you don't forget that as a nurse or as any good healthcare provider. Today, what the jury decides is going to have more of an impact on the nursing community and healthcare overall than it's going to have on me personally, because I know what I have done and I know what I've taken away from her family, and I know that ultimately I know what I'm responsible for. It's going to have an impact on transparency in healthcare. And anytime you hold someone's life in your hands, you have an obligation to do the best you can. And if you don't, you have an obligation to tell the truth and to make it very clear to those around you that can make changes to make it better. This is what I did. Everything. I left no stone unturned. And I think that it's important, regardless of what this jury comes back. I don't want the nursing community to lose sight of that. The truth will set you free. And it doesn't matter if, I'm found guilty of these charges and Judge Smith decides that, I have to go serve time for this. My life will move forward. But the impact that it's going to have on people in healthcare is going to be tragic. It's very obvious by the district attorney's actions and the assistant DAs that are prosecuting this case, all three of them, and their lies. It is very obvious. They don't know about healthcare. They don't give a about nurses. I don't care what Chad Jackson says. And you know what I have to say to the nursing community and the healthcare community? When you see those individuals walk through the doors of your facilities, because they will eventually, you remember what you were taught in nursing school. You treat them just like you would every other patient, and you take care of them just like you would every other patient, because that is what people deserve when they walk through the doors of our healthcare facilities. They do not deserve to be berated and dragged through the mud with that ridiculous display of lies yesterday. That is what sets healthcare workers apart from people like them. We hold ourselves to a higher level of accountability than they ever will.
What were some of the specifics from yesterday that really, frustrated you, angered you, hurt you? There was nothing in 2 hours that I spoke with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the agent Ramona Smith, and they played, the entire recording of that interview. What good is it going to do me to get on the stand and let him berate me like that? Because I knew that that's what they were going to do. What good is it for me to put myself through that? It doesn't do any good. And it was frustrating to listen to them say all of the things they did and just really make up some... they're a creative bunch. I'll give them that.
Do you think it's more about winning than telling the truth, than finding the truth?
No, it's absolutely about telling the truth.
No, I mean, to be fair.
Oh, for them, this is a game. This is a political game, and it has been from day one. I mean, the timeline of events for anyone who has watched this and has enough time to read, unlike their expert from yesterday, can very clearly see that there is not a motive of justice here. There is a motive of someone has to look bad. The most positive thing that I have experienced was the two interactions that I had with her grandson. And he was so incredibly nice to me. He was just the kindest person. And I think it was a good reflection of the kind of person that Miss Murphy was. He was incredibly kind, and my healing process really started after that interaction with him.
That's good. For one, I wanted to ask you, what has it meant that so many healthcare professionals have either been in attendance this week or have been streaming? Hundreds, thousands have been streaming online and supported you.
Well, I think for a long time, the nursing community has been needing to come together as a group. And over the last 15 to 20 years, as things get more public in general, social media coverage of things and people's ability to have a voice outside of a major organization like most doctors have, money and lobbying and things like that. The nursing community is different, and so I think social media has given them a big voice and a way to come together, and they have rallied behind some really important things, not just this case, but other things in healthcare. I'm just grateful to have been a part of such an amazing group of people. And I'm glad to see that nurses are coming together and they're standing up and they are voicing their concerns, because we need to be voicing our concerns.
The last thing I wanted to ask you is, do you feel like you've been scapegoated in all of this?
I'm going to let you answer that question. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm not responsible for my actions. Not at all. I've been very clear with everyone that I spoke with, the Tennessee Department of Health, multiple investigators, Vanderbilt, TBI, everyone. I have not shied away from my responsibility, but healthcare is a system. I don't go to work in a vacuum. I work in a healthcare system. Every healthcare provider works in a healthcare system. We have to work together. We all have an obligation to do better. I messed up, and I owned my mistakes, and I will pay the price for that. But it's not about paying a price. It's about doing the right thing. And I think that's where the focus needs to be.
Wow, what an interview that was. And did you catch it in there how she said that she didn't testify because she was afraid of being berated? After watching her, I keep thinking she should have testified. To me, she came off so authentic and sincere. Let me bring in my guests, see what they think. We have on the show forensic pathologist Dr. Peter Cummings and criminal defense attorney Joe Tamburino. Oh my, Dr. Pete, what did you think of what the defendant shared with our affiliate reporter?
That was loaded. There was a lot of information in there. And after hearing that, I don't disagree with you. I'm curious to hear what Ms. Tamburino thinks about this, but she might be a great witness. And she's not denying she didn't read the label. She's not denying that she didn't do this. So you come down to, how did this happen? And there are, again, multiple failures here that happened. Ultimately, it's her responsibility to read the label before she administers the drug, but all the failures that happened before there. And then you have the idea of listening to her talk. Is this an accident or is this a homicide? How do you rule this as a cause of death? That was a very interesting interview.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's really interesting, Dr. Pete. Okay, so in your line of work and what you do when you're determining cause of death, do you see this was a tricky one, huh? Because of what you just said, right? This is a mistake in the medication. Yeah, tell us more, please.
So the way that different states, different counties, everybody does this a little differently, and they're called therapeutic complications in some places, where if somebody dies as the result of a procedure, if that's sort of an expected outcome, like if you're having heart surgery and you die as a complication of that heart surgery, it's called a therapeutic complication. If you die during that heart surgery because the surgeon made a inadvertent error and nicked an artery that nobody knew that had bled, you could theoretically call that an accident in terms of manner. Remember, manner is the circumstances. You have accident, natural, homicide, suicide, undetermined. So those are the circumstances. It could have been accidental. The cases where you see in medical or healthcare where you would go from something being an accident of nicking an artery or giving the wrong drug by accident versus an intent. And that's where, homicide is a medical diagnosis in my world, where you kind of have that legal medical interface a little bit, where if this person intended to do this act and intended to give that drug, then my cause of death would be a homicide. But if it was accidental in the way she's describing it, I would rule the death as accidental. And then that enters the legal world, and whether or not I call it an accident, and Mr. Tamburino can talk about this, and you can too, whether or not I call it accident or homicide doesn't really have played too much into the legal ramifications after that when trials start and grand juries and whatnot. But there's a strong argument here that this was just a really unfortunate accident through a series of unfortunate events that need to be corrected.
Dr. Pete, that was so illuminating. Joe Tamburino, if you're on the defense side for this woman, this nurse who presumably doesn't have a criminal history and she's facing this, hearing what Dr. Pete just shared, what might you do legally in the courtroom to challenge the fact that this is even a homicide?
Well, that's why she should have testified, because what Dr. Pete just said is quite right. Going from accident to homicide, yes, on the medical end, that's an explanation as to how did the person die. But on the legal end, it has great ramifications. From the defense side, you're always going to want to have a death certificate that says that the manner of death was an accident. Obviously, a homicide doesn't mean intentional. It just means a human being causing the death of another human being, but it gets very close to intentional or reckless when you get on the legal side. Now that we have seen Ms. Vaught give that great interview, absolutely she should have testified. There's no doubt about that, because she could have explained her actions. Also, there's what's called a deviation of a standard of care. When you are charged with recklessness, your behavior has to be so bad that you have a conscious disregard to what you do, including a deviation of the standard of care. In this hospital, it seemed the standard of care was, don't worry about the machine, hit override and grab the medication. So how did she deviate from that standard of care? She should definitely have testified.
Bravo, Joe. I could listen to you both all day. This is fantastic discussion on this one. I wish we could have seen all of this trial, because it has me invested already, on this day that the jury is mulling this over. Wow, I think if they could have seen what we saw just now, they would have been back already with a verdict on this one. Again, not saying she's not responsible, but the civil arena may be where this case belongs entirely. Joe Tamburino, Dr. Peter Cummings, thank you both. I have more questions for you too.